Live from the Irish Hills in Michigan, we welcome you to race number 15 of the season for the Soda Guys Cup Series at the Michigan International Speedway, the 2-mile speedway. And we are getting set here today for 100 laps of action. Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer. And Sam, we saw these guys take to the track last night in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. What little nuggets can we take away from last night's race applied to tonight's?
This race is going to be loose, and it most likely is going to be a fuel mileage race unless we see a late caution. We got to see an extremely long green flag run yesterday. We're open to see the same here, but you never know what we're going to see in the start of these races. I mean, we've seen some cars get really aggressive last week. They might be just aggressive this week.
In the past 2 weeks at Charlotte and Kansas, it has been Boyd Hogan going to victory lane and Tyler Sifford finishing second. They are your front row here tonight. Obviously, when we talked to a lot of guys last week, they kind of considered Michigan a bit of a wild card track. Do we see these two guys duking it out for the win here again tonight, or are there some other drivers you see maybe mixing it up with them as well?
I have another car that I'm going to be watching out for. It's going to be the 4 Machine of Logan Helton. We saw him yesterday put on a great run, finished second during that race, and he was up there during the practice times, up in the top 3 of fastest cars. So he's someone to watch out for, as well as Spencer Tart.
Yeah, Helton, of course, driving as a fill-in here today in the number 4 machine for Stuart Haas Racing, filling in for Dylan Canova. Really the important reason, because that 4 car currently sits in the final transfer spot as far as the playoffs are concerned. But you mentioned the fact that he raced last night. 3 other drivers were fill-in drivers last night as well. Rocky Boyd, as well as Tom Drayling and Chris Hansen. Those 94 laps that they turned in last night's event, does that give them a little bit of an experience edge in what to expect here today?
Yeah, I mean, it gives them a ton of experience. There's a new tire model out there on iRacing, and yes, with the National Series, they're running the Xfinity type cars, and here in the Soda Guys series, they're running the Cup machine. So the trucks, I mean, the cars are slightly different in that way, but it gives you a little bit more time to work on the tires just a little bit more to figure out how they're going to react on track. That's a little bit more information for these guys to understand that they've got to be very careful with their tires. They can wear them down very easily if they're not careful.
Last night, we were treated to a long green flag run. When I mean long green flag run, I mean we only had our first and only caution of the evening come out somewhere in the vicinity of 6 laps to go. Do we see the same thing here today, or are we seeing a little bit more slipping and sliding around in practice than we saw in last night's?
I mean, during practice, these guys were slipping around off of 2, and it was looking rough for these guys. We saw off of last night, and looks like 2 might be the more dangerous spot. And also, it helps that the track is going to be extremely warm, and that's going to help these cars be a lot more slicker and for tire wear to go down just as bad.
There's a number of drivers coming into this race up there in the points that are not in tonight's event, including the 77 of Ryan Strunk, the 37 of Manatzi Major, and the 47 of Oscar Jensen. So this will certainly shake the points up here tonight, as apparently those rides were unable to secure some sub-drivers. But Boyd Hogan, he's won the last 4 points-paying races so far this season. He's looking to go for 5. Sifford has finished back-to-back runner-up finishes. He wants to finish one position better. They're the front row as we are racing here tonight in the Irish Hills.
Boyd Hogan's going to get a pretty good jump. Not able to gap himself just yet, but the Sifford staying on the outside of that 95 machine. Everyone else staying 2 by 2 by 2.
It's going to be Curtis Sawyer there in the 39, trying to take 3rd place away from Spencer Tart. We haven't seen Spencer Tart. Oh, and as soon as I say that, he's a sideways and...
Oh, no! York involved as well, hitting the wall. Many more going around.
Big wreck there on the back straightaway is at least 3-4 cars collected up. The one that got the significant damage was the 19 of Zach York, who got hooked in the right rear quarter panel when the 10 of Spencer Tart was trying to save it.
A car that got loose by himself trying to avoid all that. It's going to be the 42 machine. Did not hit the wall, but could have been an awful day for him. He's still running, but yeah, the 19 of Zach York, the car that got the most damage out of that.
There were a couple of other drivers, too, that I think spun out while trying to avoid. The contact really was between the 10 and the 19. We'll go back and see just exactly what happened, but it really looked like it was kind of off camera when it happened, but it looked like the 10 of Spencer Tart just got really loose there in the center of 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean, he got a little bit of help from Caden Rush there on the back corner panel, back left corner panel, and that's kind of what got him extremely loose and spun it around, and then hooked the 19. So it's the same thing that we saw last week, where cars were just getting kind of aggressive, trying to make some bold moves, and it cost a couple of drivers.
You see there, top of your screen, where York goes into the outside wall, and I thought we had some other drivers spinning out, but no, those were guys like Rocky Boyd, I believe that was Curtis Sawyer, and a couple of others darting down to the inside to avoid the wreck. So really the only car that we had actually go around was the 19.
We've got some machines coming into the pits up front. You got Caden and Rush, Spencer Tart, both involved in that wreck, as well as everyone from 11th on back. So that's Rocky Boyd on the one machine that started the train from 11th on back.
There's the contact right there, and boy, hard impact there to not only the right front, but also to the left rear of that 19 machine. Zach York coming into this race 5th in the overall standings, and Spencer Tart, who of course we saw got a piece of all of that, he came into this race 9th in the point stands. He's actually making his first start in the 10 cars since Flatout Racing Network took on the broadcasting duties here for the Soda Guys Cup Series, but after both those drivers had great qualifying efforts, not the way they wanted their Michigan race to start out. And I'm noticing, Sam, that the sun is starting to come out. And one thing that you touched on quite a bit in last night's race was the track temperature playing a huge part in these drivers and slipping and sliding around. So I would have to assume, since we started this race in overcast and now the sun's peeked out behind the clouds, that's going to start warming up the track.
Yeah, due to the fact that these drivers aren't running quick lap times, full speed, with us just running 3 laps slowly going around, it's actually dropped the temperature. It started out around 116 degrees once these drivers pulled off pit road. Now it's down to 109, which is much cooler than what it was during yesterday's race, where it was almost 117 at times.
One driver that got through that wreck is the 4 of Logan Helton. Mentioned he's filling in here tonight for Dylan Canova over at Stewart Haas Racing. This is the 3rd Cup Series start for Helton. His first start was with Front Row Motorsports back at the other 2-mile speedway of Auto Club. He brought it home 3rd place there. He also filled in at Chip Ganassi Racing, the number 42 at Atlanta, brought that home in the 14th position. So, if you look at the numbers he's got so far, especially with the fact that Auto Club is considered a sister track here to Michigan, you mentioned him, one of the guys to watch. He could very well be playing spoiler here and maybe take a win away from someone that's trying to lock themselves into the Cup Series playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, he was the fastest car during practice. Didn't get the qualifying time that he wanted, and started back in 8th, now up to 4th. So we'll see if the Ford machine can make his way up to the lead and try to challenge Boyd Hogan, who's just been looking dominant since we've taken over broadcasting, and also see if Sifford's able to make any noise for that 2 machine.
Tyler Sifford, as well as the car we're looking at, Taylor Butcher Benjamin, both on the 3 drivers to watch here tonight that the Soda Guys Cup Series put out on their Facebook page here this evening. With the fact that Sifford has had back-to-back runner-up finishes to Boyd Hogan, you can bet there's a little bit of personal rivalry going on there. Sifford wanting to be able to take a checkered flag, and Taylor Butcher Benjamin been very consistent this season. He's your points leader coming into this race, so we know that he's been consistently up inside of the top 5. Question is, though, at a track that a lot of times we consider strategy, is that a place where we could end up seeing the points leader roll the dice, do something a little bit different to try and pick up a trip to victory lane, as we're getting ready to go back green with a total of 96 laps to go.
Boyd Hogan got a much better start that time around with a car length, almost 2 car lengths difference between himself and Tyler Sifford. Sawyer up there, as well as the 4 machine, our top 4, slowly trying to pull away from everyone else. And if they can get a gap from everyone else, it really is going to help these 4 cars be able to save their tires, save fuel, and not try to push as hard as they would be if everyone else is still grouped up.
You saw right there when they went through 1 and 2 that Curtis Sawyer kind of ran Tyler Sifford up the track to try and take that middle groove. And I think that's probably what you're going to be seeing here. That inside line, I don't really think there's a whole lot of opportunity for drivers to be able to go down there, make up ground without getting really loose off the corners. They're all migrating as high up the track as they possibly can.
We talked about the 4 car, and he's about to make a move here as we're seeing Hogan stuck on the high side with Sawyer making the move and getting some help on the inside. Sawyer to the lead.
Now Logan Helton going to look to the inside. Ooh, 39 looked a little squirrely there on the entrance of turn 1. Forward with some momentum on the inside line. Meanwhile, behind them, side by side for the third position, that's Tyler Sifford down low, up high Boyd Hogan. And how about Ty Colin, that number 34, entering into this mix?
Ty Cole kind of came out of nowhere, was able to make the pass on the 11 machine, and it now grouped up with this 4 cars that were up front, and now everyone else slowly with the draft, pulling back in line, and everyone now single filed out except for their leaders.
Comes Taylor Butcher Benjamin, Carl Dotson as well, so about the top 7 cars, all nose to tail here, heading in through turns 1 and 2. Then they all split and take different lines through the corner. Looks like about 3 or 4 cars using the outside line as Helton gonna stick the 39 of Sawyer back up to the top side. Looks like the 39's getting that great straightaway speed, but Helton's really good driving it deep into the corner.
Yeah, Elton just trying to hold on the inside as much as he can. And one problem with running the inside is you can get squeezed pretty hard on exits where you're going to have to let off the gas so you don't run it above you. But these guys are racing very respectfully, giving each other plenty of room. But, I mean, the 2 cars that are bump drafting down the front stretch, that's going to be Hogan and Sifford. These guys have been running very close to one another the last 2 weeks. Still, even here at Michigan, running very close to one another.
You know, there's another thing I'm noticing as well. These drivers are not given an inch here from first all the way back to 7th place. They are racing almost like it's the last laps of this event. And you mentioned last night how abrasive Michigan is on the tires. I mean, with them racing side by side like this, it's wearing down those Goodyears.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're staying side by side, you're wearing those tires down a lot more. Just trying to race harder than the car that you're next to as they're 3 wide for the lead.
Sifford on the bottom, Sawyer in the middle, Helton way up top side. The driver to back out of that one will be Sifford in the Levian Family Racing Toyota Camry. Now he'll go for second place on Helton as it looks like Sawyer may clear for the lead off of turn 2.
Looking like the 22 machine, having some issues, possibly hit the wall, and that's what we're seeing with the cars back here. And had some issues, and 22 in the pits, as well as Zach York is able to get back on the track after fixing up some of that damage that he got.
It's a tough break there for Chad Gunisman, who actually was laying down some good lap times in practice. That car was looking like it might have been a contender for the win here today. He also comes into this race in a very good position in points, second in the standings, 40 points behind Benjamin for the points lead. So definitely not what he was looking to have happen here today at Michigan. And now we got a battle for the lead again. Sifford tried to make a move on Sawyer, couldn't do it, lost the momentum off of 2. That opens the door for Boyd Hogan to challenge for the second position.
Boyd Hogan on the bottom all by himself, not really getting any draft help from the 4 machine, but now you see Sifford stuck on the outside. Have to wait and see what Logan Helton and that 4 car is going to do, who he's going to follow and help out down the front stretch.
We drop back a little bit further. We've got some more battling going on. Just inside of the top 10, Alex Link, as well as Justin Carey, Ty Cole, they're mixing it up for 7th, 8th, and 9th. And these guys right now, even though they're battling, it looks like they're starting to close in on that top 7. So we could have about maybe 11, 12 cars up in this lead pack in just a matter of a lap and a half.
Well, it looked like Justin Carey got a little loose off of 2, and you got to drop down onto the apron, let some cars go on by before so he can regroup, and now back on the track. He only lost about 2 positions, but it could have been very bad for that 21 machine. Ty Cole, he was up there around 7th and 6th position, but I think he might have gotten in the wall or got loose as he's dropped back to 8th, once was at 9th.
McWhirter right now in that 96 out of Gaunt Brothers Racing. He's currently in the 11th spot, and Spencer Tart, who got loose, got sideways, made contact with Zach York back in the very first lap, bringing out the first and only caution up to this point, has been able to fight his way back up to the 12th position, now side by side with Rocky Boyd. Mentioned the fact that Logan Helton, of course, is a full-time regular in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, taking part in last night's event, but 3 drivers were in that event as well as fill-ins. I think Helton, did he get the wall or did he just lose momentum? Because he just dropped from 3rd all the way back to 6th.
And he's kind of been losing momentum. He got stuck on the high side, got pushed even further up, and he's just been losing momentum while all these other cars are coming in. I mean, this is the part of the race where we saw our front 4 racing extremely hard against one another, and you might be seeing the wear and tear on some of these tires as Helton's dropping all the way back to 7th place now.
To bring up the point that I was going to state was that 3 drivers that are regular Cup Series drivers were fill-ins last night in the Michigan race. Tom Drayling, Rocky Boyd, and Chris Hansen. Right now, Tom Drayling, the highest run of those, in 8th. Boyd currently in 11th. Hansen currently running last car on the lead lap, back in the 17th position. And out of those drivers last night, it was Tom Drayling who finished in the 4th position, filling in over at Joe Gibbs Racing. So, with the fact that with what we heard, the fuel window's about the same for these drivers, track conditions maybe a little.
Sawyer got real loose and dropped it down onto the apron, letting a car going by, but that was scary for that 12 machine.
And that's going to move Carl Dodson up to 3rd place. I think Logan Helton also got loose there off of 2 almost synchronized near spinouts for the 39 and the 4. But with the fact that Drayling's been able to already run 94 laps under almost the similar conditions and everything, yeah, there's a different composite to the Cup cars as opposed to the Xfinity cars. But, I mean, right now, do you think that he's one of those drivers we could look at to maybe think outside the box in terms of strategy as opposed to everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, you can see what type of strategies are there to throw out as well. Looks like more cars are having issues down there as it's Justin Carey once again who gets loose. But we got to be careful with all these cars that are mixed up here around 10th and 11th. So you got the 22 machine who came into the pits about 6 or 7 laps ago, much faster than everyone else as he's trying to make his way through the field.
With the 14 of Carl Dodson, drop back to 4th, now about to lose that to Alex Link. He got the wall off of turn 2 last time around. It was hard to tell if he got it with the entire right side, but definitely got it at least around the right rear tire. So we'll see if that's going to affect him here on the long run. The guy that's really making some good laps and making up some good time is that 43 of Alex Link.
Yeah, Link is someone that kind of just been waiting out. I mean, we saw Ty Cole make a charge up to the front. Helton used up a lot of his stuff. He started dropping back, but it's been Alex Link and Carl Dodson that both have been kind of moving up through the field slowly but surely, and now you find themselves with Dodson hitting the wall. It's been a little bit of hazardous for that 14 car, but yeah, I mean, you got to give it up to Alex Link. Started back in 20th spot, now has made his way up to the top 5.
Battle for the lead is back on, and guess who? It's Boyd Hogan and Tyler Sifford. Yet again, we saw this back at Kansas. We saw it the week before at Charlotte. Those two mixing it up for the race lead, and they're doing it again. We aren't even 20 laps into this race, but we've seen a lot of battling all through the field of drivers battling almost as if it's the final 10 laps. And I think a big reason for that is what we saw in last night's event where it got to 2 rounds of green flag pit stops. The field was so spread out. These drivers realized that could happen here as well. They've got to strike and pick up positions while they can in close proximity with others.
Yeah, I mean, you got these cars that are in the mix of things. I mean, you got Link as well as the 42 of Tom Drelling. Both those guys pitted on that first caution. They all came in, got some pit stops done, got a little bit of repair done on their cars, and so they've got fresher tires than these guys up front. That's why they're able to make these charges. And a lot of other cars here in the mix of things also came into the pits earlier than everyone else.
Look at the difference of tires there for the 22 of Chad Gunisman, who had to make that unscheduled stop to repair damage after getting into the wall. He looks like he's taking corners about 5 to 10 miles per hour faster than the 43 of Alec Link and the 14 of Carl Dodson.
Yeah, I mean, he's running about a second or so faster than the guys that he's around, so it makes sense why that 22 is able to make the moves that he is, but dropping back to around 10th place, he's still seeing cars struggling to keep their tires under them, and another car that used up a lot of stuff drifted on back. That's going to be the 11 machine, who is having some issues back here. Started 7th, now back to 12th.
You know what I noticed was a group of 3 drivers back here that had kind of seemed, since the drop of the green flag, to just kind of be riding around. Joseph Piscota, Vincent Arthur, and James Love, all the Hendrick cars. Now, we saw in last night's event, some drivers try and split it up with 2 pit stops. Some drivers stretch it to just 1 pit stop. I wonder if some of these Hendrick guys might be back here on purpose, maybe saving and thinking about doing a 1-stopper.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the fuel and even with the draft, I don't think, I mean, it's going to be very close if you try to do 1-stopper, but I think you're going to be about 4 laps short, even if you're saving. So if these guys are trying to do that, it's a risky play. But I mean, also these Hendrick guys, might be thinking, hey, we've had a rough couple of weeks. Let's try to just relax for a bit and try to just save our stuff for later on in the race. There might be more cautions that could set us up to have a better run at the end of this. So I'll have to wait and see how these guys run. But right now, yeah, just chilling out in the back of the field.
Right now, in the past 2 weeks, the only good thing that's happened with Hendrick Motorsports for the most part was Vincent Arthur's third place finish at Charlotte. Talk about another driver that has used up a lot of his stuff. You mentioned the 11 of Benjamin, but also the 34 of Ty Cole. They have dropped back to 14th and 16th, respectively. And these were two guys that were up inside the top 10 about 15 laps ago. So we're definitely starting to see who's got the long run speed, who's got the short run speed. And for the moment, that battle for the race lead has gone away. I almost wonder if maybe Tyler Sifford has used up a lot of his stuff when he was up there trying to battle for the top spot, because he's starting to fall back into the clutches of Curtis Sawyer for second.
Speaking of Sawyer, got loose again off of 2, and he'll be dropping back. So, I mean, these front two, yes, they are pulling away, but you're starting to see over 20 laps on these tires. It's rough on these tires, especially with sliding around. You're wearing it a lot more. Now, just taking a quick look at the track temp, it has dropped down drastically from where we were at. The cloud cover has helped a ton. We're down to less than 100 degrees. 99 degrees is the track temp. So the wear and tear on these tires actually isn't as bad as it was during practice. So these guys are finding a little bit more grip, but due to the tire wear of us being out there for 23 laps for most of these guys, that's why we're seeing these guys sliding around.
Great battle going on back here. It's now a four-car battle between Ty McWhirter, Rocky Boyd, Joseph Piscota, and Vincent Arthur. That's for 8th on back through 11th. McWhirter making only his second start in the season. Piscota and Arthur making their third. And, a big thing of when we saw Curtis Sawyer get loose there off the corner, we've gotten ourselves now into about a 20-lap run since we had our first and only caution up to this point. And this is an open setup league. These drivers get to set up the car the way they want to their specifications, which of course helps for driver comfort as well. But I don't care what kind of a setup you put together. When you're at a track like Michigan, a lot of pressure is going to be put on that right rear as Boyd with a near moment off of 2. A lot of pressure is going to be put on that right rear quarter panel, and with that loose condition these drivers felt early on, it's only going to get worse as we go further and further into a run.
Yeah, the more you slide, the more your tires are going to get more heated up. And with iRacing and the way that the physics are in this, once those tires get heated up, there's no way to cool them down. They're just going to get worse and worse the longer you go. So just got to be careful of that as the race goes on.
Rocky Boyd last night in over at Brandon Belt Motorsports, the number 86 in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. Struggled in that race too, as I remember him getting to the wall, and gracious, it's the second time that he's nearly lost it off of turn 2 in that side-by-side battle with Vincent Arthur.
I mean, we saw this last week with Rocky Boyd. It's just the longer the run goes, the more loose his car gets, and it starts to slide around. So he's got to be careful not to get too loose with his machine, but you're seeing the struggles of once you slide once, it just gets worse and worse the longer the run goes on. And we were talking about the first caution, and the car that kind of looked like it caused that caution was disqualified. That was Caden Rush. That's why I haven't talked about him much. He was disqualified at the start of the green flag run that we're on right now.
Saw there that Rocky Boyd and Justin Carey were battling side by side. Meanwhile, further up,
caution's out! And it's Rocky Boyd that's sideways.
Spins it off of turn 2. That car finally snapped around. Turn 2, he has, we could put this in air quotes, spun at least 3 times off that corner in the last 3 laps. And finally, this time, the car just completely went around on him.
Yeah, I got to give credit to him. He looked like he was about to overcorrect it and throw it into the outside wall. Spun it to the inside. Didn't hit anything. So Rocky Boyd, luckily, his car did not take any damage. But I would imagine he's going to probably take that car in, try to make some adjustments to tighten it up so it's not as loose later on in the run.
Of course, with that caution coming out, this would say to me that, if everybody came into this race already thinking a one-stop strategy, this puts us now within the window to definitely be able to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, the cars can stretch anywhere from, this helps those cars. Caution laps helps you save some fuel. But I would imagine just due to the fact that we have ran 27 for some of these guys, 24 for others, They're going to be coming in the pits, get some fresh rubber, back it full of fuel, and try to maybe turn this into one more stop after this for these drivers. As we're starting to see everyone get ready to go into the pits, and as I say that, everyone comes in.
You see, fortunately, at that point when Rocky Boyd spins around, nobody was to his inside. The last couple of times around off turn 2, he had someone trying to make a pass on him for position. So if that had been the case there when that car finally looped around, more than likely we would have had more than one car spun around there on the apron of the back straightaway. But as we jump up here and see if there is going to maybe be a battle off of pit road here, Boyd Hogan, of course, with the first pit stall. We'll see if that's going to be the difference maker of him getting out with the lead. Tyler Sifford right behind him, and no contest. Too easily going to win the battle off pit road, so he'll be the leader when we go back green. How about Tom Drayling, though? And Alex Link moving up to second and third. My question with that would be, remember you mentioned they came to pit road under the first caution. Was that because they had to take less fuel?
Had to take less fuel, but also just I don't know what happened to Sifford, but I think he had, looking at it, he might have had some damage or could have overshot his pit stall. I'm taking a look at it, and it looks like he had some damage on that 95 machine. Had to get repaired, so he'll be back in the middle of the pack. Oh no, he overshot his pit stall. That's why he lost some time.
And that is a costly mistake. That's another thing, too, that we saw in last night's event during those green flag pit stops. You're out there so long, you're wearing down those tires. You come into pit road onto the concrete pit stalls, and you slide those tires very easily because there's not a whole lot of grip to be able to slow you down.
Well, we know one car that was extremely glad to see that caution besides Spencer Boyd. It's going to be the 22 machine getting his laps back. He is now on the lead lap coming into the pits because of being the lucky dog.
So Chad Gunisman back on the lead lap, which will give us 18 cars on the lead lap. We're watching the 24 of Vincent Arthur coming back to pit lane. Not sure what the strategy is here. Off. I don't know what advantage there necessarily would be with coming down and topping off the fuel tank, except maybe if you're expecting this thing to go green all the way to the end, you can maybe stay out that extra lap and get a bonus point for a lap led. But I mean, pretty much everybody's going to have to pit at least one more time before this race is over.
Yeah, I mean, that's just pushing yourself going further and further out. And looks like due to Rocky Boyd spinning out and causing caution, he'll be given an EOL penalty. So he'll be starting in the back of the longest line once we go green.
A couple of other drivers that I think also pitted there on that second caution lap included Spencer Tart, Chris Hansen, James Love, and Chad Gunisman. Right now, 18 cars on the lead lap of 19 running. Zach York is still out there, but he is currently 4 laps down after getting involved in the first caution, sustained the most damage. And you brought up earlier, Caden Rush is going to finish the evening out in the 20th position, first and only car up to this point to DNF. It'll be Boyd Hogan on point alongside of Tom Drayling, Alex Link, Carl Dotson, Joseph Piscotta, your top 5 with Sawyer, McWhirter, Benjamin Sifford, and Logan Helton completing the top 10. Green flag back in the air as we're just a little over a quarter of the way through the event here today at Michigan.
Boyd Hogan getting an even better start. It just seems like Sifford is the only car that can really stay with that 2 machine, as it looks like Hogan's got about a 2, maybe 3 car length lead in front of Alex Link, who Link finally getting by Drayling.
This is going to be interesting, too, if Link can clear for the second spot and open up some daylight, because he had one of the faster cars on the long run there just before that caution came out, so he may have something here for this Rogue Energy number 2.
Might have something, but we were talking about Hendrick cars earlier on in that last run, how they were staying in the back. That 9 machine decides to make a push up front, now up to 4th, and possibly can get more positions here.
Piscotta has only got 1 top 10 finish in his 2 starts so far this year. Mentioned how the last couple of weeks have been struggles for the Hendrick Motorsports organization as a whole. And right now behind him, he's got Ty McWhirter there. How about that single car entry out of Gaunt Brothers Motorsports, as he's currently in that 5th position, trying to mix it up here with guys inside the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great run for the 96 so far, and with these pit stops, it allows some of these guys that needed repairs to get them done, so they'll be starting in the back. But some of these guys that have been saving up their tires, able to make some moves up front. As right now, we're single file all the way back to about 11th place, where we start to see Ty Cole and Spencer Tart side by.
I mentioned about the fact that Piscota and Vincent Arthur, they're making only their third starts this season. McWhirter's making only his second as well. We had trouble up here. I don't know what's going on, but several cars darting to the inside, including Logan Helton and Curtis Sawyer. Whatever happened, everybody went down to the inside in reaction to it. Looks like everyone kept it straight, though.
Yeah, just looking back, looked like it might have been Sawyer that got a little loose off of 4, and everyone thought they were avoiding him, but he kept on coming down as they were avoiding him on the apron.
Going back to Piscota, McWhirter, and Arthur, yes, they may have a limited number of starts here, so they'd be considered rookies, but when you consider a lot of times in these type of leagues a driver being listed as a rookie, that doesn't mean that they've got rookie experience in iRacing. That just means that they're making their first couple of starts here in the league as Helton and the 4 are coming to pit road.
It looked like he just came off, got loose entering 3 and continued to get loose and decides to just dump it on the apron, slow down, let everyone go by, and put himself in the pits. He could have brushed the wall earlier on.
I'm seeing, I might be wrong, if you look just underneath the Ford Mustang grill on the front, it looks like that nose has been pushed in a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like it is. I mean, when we saw everyone go down below the apron, all scattered at that point, there was a lot of cars right on top of one another. Could have been some front-end damage due to that.
Right now, about half a second separates Boyd Hogan from Alex Link. But of course, as mentioned, Link has a very good long-run car, so we'll see if that gap begins to dwindle. The best battling right now is going on third place on back. That's where Tom Drayling, Joseph Piscota, Ty McWhirter are all in the same vicinity, as that 39 of Curtis Sawyer continues to struggle. He just lost another spot to Carl Dotson. He is dropping towards the back half of the top 10 very quickly.
Yeah, just not looking good for Warder, and I mean, we're starting to see guys. This is around the time that we were seeing Ty Cole and some other cars get into the wall, or their tires just start to wear down faster than everyone else. So it might be seeing the fact that these guys using up too much of their stuff too early on.
See, that's the thing with an open setup league, too. You give drivers the choice at a track like this of which monster do you want to tackle? Do you want to set your car up for the short run and then have to deal with something that won't turn off the corner on the long run? Or do you want to fight the looseness early on, have a long run car that's actually, when it tightens up, going to give you some great long run speed? So I think right now, as far as the 39 is concerned, he's got a car that's probably set up for the long run. He's having to struggle here in the short run to keep that car underneath him.
Yeah, I mean, overall, though, these guys have been doing a great job. Last night we saw that, the difference of a long run setup and a short run setup with Santini and Helton both having great runs. Helton had the short run car, just wasn't able to get it done with the last 6 laps. But, oh
right, boy. We had a near moment there with Carl Dotson off of 2.
It's just constantly off of 2. We're seeing these cars having issues. Just the looseness. We saw it during practice, and we're seeing it here during the race. Turn 2 is the most deadly part of this track, and it is eating up a lot of cars, his rear ends, as well as some machines just out there on track.
McWhirter trying to go around the outside of Tom Drayling. That is side by side for 4th place. Now, we saw when the 22 of Gunnisman came to pit road for the unscheduled stop, came back out on fresh tires. He was running lap times anywhere from 6 to 7 tenths faster than leader Boyd Hogan. In last night's event, you remember Whitaker decided to try and go with a strategy of pitting 3 times as opposed to everybody else pitting twice. He did manage on the first run to gain some time. It obviously did not pan out in the long run. Does anybody think about that here, to maybe coming to pit road, getting fresh tires 2 times rather than just the 1 time?
No, you have to do just the 1 time here. Even if you try the, we saw with Warder, yes, it helped him gain maybe a position or 2, but in the long run, it really greatly when he could have been racing with everyone else around them, seeing how they're running, seeing the lines they're going with, instead of trying to chase everyone down and wasting his tire so early on in his and then getting caught by everyone else.
Battle for second. Joseph Piscata to the outside of Alex Link, trying to make the pass, couldn't do it. May look to cross over to the inside here down the front straightaway. This is going on about a second and a half behind race leader Boyd Hogan. One driver that's not up here mixing it up. You talked about him overshooting his pit stall. It's taken him a long time to march his way even up to 7th place, and that is Tyler Sifford. He's back here now in this four-way battle for the 4th position, but he's not been able to make up a heck of a lot of ground since we went back green.
No, he's not really been able to at all. He's maybe 3 positions, but he's kind of just been stuck where he's at. Everyone in front of him has been racing side by side, so he's been just stuck in a box, now not able to make any moves, trying to push the car that he's following to maybe help them make the pass, but it's just been very difficult for this 95 machine to make any moves. He'll need another caution to get fresher tires to maybe make a run for our leader, Hogan, but Hogan's just pulling away at this point with over a 2-second gap.
And you saw that side-by-side battle between Piscota and Link. Well, with them being side-by-side, the draft kicking in, woo, as Link gets loose off of 2. That's going to be a broken record here today. We're going to be saying that a lot. But that's going to allow Ty McWhirter to move around for 3rd place, but it allowed McWhirter, Dodson, Drayling, Sawyer to reel 2nd and 3rd place in.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Link, we thought maybe has kicked in if he was able to save tires, maybe for the long run, but it is not looking good for that 43 machine as he's dropped back down to 5th. Could be losing even more positions if he gets loose off of 2 again, and we've been seeing that cars that get loose off of 2 once, wait another 3 to 4 laps, we'll see him probably get loose off of 2 once again. It's just because the tires get heat up so much that just makes the back end so much slicker, as we're seeing the 43 once again dive it down on the apron, got a little loose there.
All of a sudden, that Richard Petty Motorsports Chevrolet Camaro, the grip that he had early on, is going away as he now has Tom Drayling to his outside, Curtis Sawyer right behind him, and also Tyler Sifford there in the 95. Up towards the front, though, the battle looks like it's going to be for the 3rd position, side by side between McWhirter and Carl Dodson. Dodson, the last couple of weeks, has had an awful lot of hard luck. Back at Charlotte, he was trying to unlap himself around Butcher Benjamin and got involved in a wreck there. Ended up with a lot of damage and finished multiple laps down. Of course, found early trouble last week at Kansas, where he got caught up in a wreck. I think it was on the 2nd lap of the race, and eventually DNF from that race. So good run here for the 14, a well-needed run after the hardships he's had in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, able to make that pass on to 3rd very cleanly, and now going to be trying to make his push for 2nd, but looking back, I mean, it seems like some cars having some disputes, and just everyone's being so clustered up from about 6th on back. They are all wadded up into some type of fashion, but the car that's kind of leading these pack of cars that are having issues seems to be Alex Link, who's just, whoa, Sawyer!
Did he save it? I think he did.
He did.
Boy, fortunately, you got that whole long apron back there for these drivers to be able to utilize at their disposal. If that wasn't there, if that was grass, more than likely the 39 would have been spun around in the back straightaway.
It's helpful the fact that that is all usable apron for these drivers, but it's also the new tire model that iRacing just put in. It makes these tires wear down a lot quicker, but also allows you once later on to save these cars a lot easier. So I got to give credit to iRacing on that, but also the skill by Sawyer to save that one. And we've seen a lot of cars all race long. We're only on lap 45.
Logan Helton going around. Teammate for the day, Spencer Tart. A couple of Storehouse Racing cars. Now remember, Logan Helton's 1 lap down after that, we'll call it unscheduled pit stop, because obviously I don't think he wanted to come to pit road when he did. Currently -1.
Looks like Alex Link got up into the wall, and it would not look good for anyone else out there. Able to keep on running straight, but that 43 car's race is not looking good with how loose he's getting.
And I don't know if you can look back and find out if there was contact between himself and Tyler Sifford, or if Sifford just lost all his momentum having to check up for the 43. Sifford all the way back to 10th.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like these guys got very close to one another coming into 3 and 4. And looking to see what happened. The 43 drifted up, got into the 95. 95 got almost into the wall, and that's why he lost all that time. Contact between the 95 and 43.
Right now, Alex Link currently in 7th, but he's under fire from Vincent Arthur and Spencer Tart. Tyler Sifford just now dropped out of the top 10, losing the 10th position to Chad Gunnisman. Yes, the same guy that hit the wall early on, came to pit road, lost a lap because of that. Lost 2 laps as soon as I say that, he almost loses it off of 2. But he lost 2 laps, got one of them back the hard way with fresh tires, got the free pass with our latest caution, and now he's up there. He was in the top 10. He just drifted back to 11th, but a great comeback for him.
A very good comeback, but man, these guys are struggling out here. Some cars that are mixing it up with our leaders that are lap down machines. Rocky Boyd was up there with our leaders, as well as Logan Helton. They're up here with our guys that are in the top 4, but they are a lap down, so just got to be careful of these lap machines that are up here with our leaders.
They are battling with each other somewhere around the 5th position. That's where you find Tom Drayling battling there with Carl Dotson and Ty McWhirter. That's 3rd, 4th, and 5th place. Looking in terms of lap times, though, between our top 2, Pascota's been able to gap himself from this 3rd place battle, has about maybe a little less than a full second between himself and these guys, but in terms of lap times, he's running about 4/10 slower than Boyd Hogan, who's been able to open up to 3.5 seconds between himself and that Napa Chevrolet.
Yeah, some of the cars that we were really had circled to maybe battle it out with Boyd Hogan and had a chance to challenge him, they've all had issues at some point during this race, it seems like. As you know, Logan Helton, he had his issues, and then we've also seen Sifford having some contact and some pit road issues that have set him back in the middle of the pack. So some of the cars we thought were going to be battling it out with Boyd, they are not there, and everyone else that we thought were going to be battling for about 4th on back, they're now battling for 2nd on back.
Mention the fact, coming into this one, Boyd Hogan has won the last 4 points paying race. Of course, you had the All-Star race in between all of that, but taking the checkers at Dover, Martinsville, Charlotte, and Kansas, and now trying to add Michigan to the list. Obviously, with these cars slipping and sliding around, we can't throw out the possibility that these guys are all going to get bunched up with another caution.
Alex Link, once again, losing off 2, able to save it. Got himself on the apron, conducted himself, and now fell from about 8th place all the way back to 12th now. And I was seeing Alex close to people, and it was very sketchy to see. I mean, we already saw him make contact with Sifford earlier on a couple laps ago, and almost made contact with the 11 that time, and now he's side by side with the 22.
That's exactly the point I was making there, with that we can't throw out the possibility here in the second half of this race that we're not going to see another caution with these drivers, especially having the issues off of turn 2 that they have. So Boyd Hogan, even though right now he's enjoying a nearly 4-second lead, that could dissipate in the blink of an eye, as right now struggling is Carl Dotson. He just lost 3rd to Ty McWhirter. That's the lap machine of Logan Helton getting around him. Looks like all of a sudden the rear grip is going away on that 14 Ford Mustang.
Well, there's rear grips fading away, but also you've got Helton on a couple of lap newer tires than all these guys. So he is running a lot faster than some of these guys up here. And we're around that stage of time for that last caution where we saw Rocky Boyd spinning around, where the cars were just losing. I mean, we've already been seeing them get loose off of 2, but it starts to get gradually worse from here on out. We might be seeing another caution here within the next 7 to 8 laps if we go based off of our.
We're also closing in on the stage of the race where drivers may start thinking about short pitting. Fuel window would be open, I would think, somewhere in the next 5 or so laps, but if you do that, you're running 2 risks. Number 1, your tires are probably going to be bare threads coming to the checkered flag. And number 2, you run the risk of going a lap down here and having a caution come out, having to either rely on the free pass or maybe a wave around to get back on the lead lap.
Yeah, if our drivers go another about 5 laps, another 10 to 15 laps, which will put them around lap 40 on the time that they've been running on their stuff. They're going to be on treads, but it'll be around the time as caution is out, as we talk about. Oh no, it's Tyler Sifford, and looks like Alex Link got together again.
Here's Sifford on the apron. Alex Link now bringing his Chevrolet down to the apron as well. It's not the first time these two got together here today. The first time they saved it, not this time, as both of them significant damage. Sifford's front end all crunched up, and a lot of damage to both the front and rear of the 43.
It almost looks exactly like it was last time, but the cars are in opposite positions. Instead of Alex getting into Sifford, it was Sifford getting into Link. So it looked like the 95 got a little loose, but also he was pushing his car, hoping that it would stick, and it just did not at the end there.
Both cars had managed to work their way up as high as second place here today, and wow, you're right. It literally was like Sifford's car did not stick. It literally went straight and up into the left rear quarter panel of that 43 of Alex Link. And boy, that's going to be some significant damage to try and overcome. This is a hugely aerodynamic track. A lot of drivers kind of consider Auto Club and Michigan in the super speedway type range, just based on the speed you carry and how significant the draft is. I think this is effectively going to take these drivers out of the running for the win. Now they're just going to have to go out there, try and log laps. Hope the other drivers run into some issues as well.
Yeah, Tyler Sifford, only car that did not pit coming around, and it makes sense. The 95 machine staying out there, still on a lead lap, even though with that caution, going to lead at least one lap, then get his car repaired. And I don't know if it's going to be repaired enough for him to finish out this race, but a lot of damage on that 95 machine.
Absolutely, boy. Tough break there for Tyler Sifford after finishing second in back-to-back races the past 2 weeks at Charlotte and Kansas. But Michigan, it's just not been his day. And we can go all the way back to what put him back in the position to be in these, this little bit of an incident, all the way back to when he overshot his pit stall back under the second caution. You wouldn't think that a thing on pit road, a mistake on pit road, would be that costly, but it just shows you that every single dimension of this race plays its factor into who's going to go to victory lane and who isn't.
Yeah, and then he was making his way forward, and before this caution, Alex Link and also Sifford made contact in the middle of that run. That put them even further back, and then they got connected again, and that's where we saw this caution that we have right now. Caution number 3 of the day. I mean, that's 2 more than we saw yesterday. It's been kind of a different feeling this race than it was yesterday, but still some fun racing to watch.
Absolutely, as that's going to turn the lead over to Boyd Hogan with the 95 of Sifford now coming to pit road. Piscata's going to cross the line in second. Then it's Drayling, McWhirter, and Dodson going to be your top 5. Free pass car is going to be the 4 of Logan Helton. He was close to maybe getting his lap back the hard way. He had worked his way up as high as, I think it was the 3rd place running machine. So in a matter of time, he probably would have unlapped himself, but doesn't have to, gets the free pass, is able to come down, put himself on the same sequence of tires as the race leaders. So a very lucky caution there for the 4 machine, and we'll see if he can charge his way back up to the front.
Just looking, taking a glance at the track temperature, and it has screamed up 100. I mean, not up 100, but it is in the 109 degree mark, up 10 degrees since the last time we talked about it. And that was around the time of our last caution that we talked about this. So that's about 23, 24 laps. And we have gone up 11 degrees now as it goes up another degree for these drivers. So slick track, once again, kind of the same feel we had on that first stint that we saw these guys go green for.
All right, Sam, I'm going to ask you as a driver here. Obviously, I know if a caution comes out, you're going to be coming to pit road trying to get those tires. But let's say that we go green the rest of the way here. They're good to go on fuel. Do you plan to run this thing out to the checkered flag if we don't see a caution between then and now?
I mean, it kind of matters on how we've been seeing these cars. It's been around the 23 to 25 area that we see a caution just because of self-spinning or contact. The wait and see then as we go green now, as Boyd Hogan getting a great start, and everyone else kind of looking like they're standing still.
Be at least 3 car lengths going into turn 1. The advantage from Hogan back to this 4-way battle for second place. Piscata going to drive a little bit deeper into turn 1, trying to close up the gap there between himself and the 2. We'll see. I mean, obviously, as we said, this is a draft-reliant track. Can these 4 or 5 back here work together to draft up to the 2 car? Looks like they're closing a little bit going into 3.
I mean, they are closing in, and they are in real racy up front as they're side by side for second on to fifth place and make it even back to eighth place. These guys are racing really hard. I was actually looking at the action in the back around that 15th, 14 marker when we just went around that last lap, and they were getting pretty racy back there, but they finally got things situated.
It's an Arthur now charging up to the front. He almost slid into Tom Drayling there. I think he thought he was clear, wasn't quite, as now that was the 95 of McWhirter almost losing it off of 2, but now we've got that Exalta Chevrolet out in front there. He finished third to Boyd Hogan back at Charlotte. Let's now see what that 24's got under the hood.
I mean, we saw how awful of a week Hendrick had last week, and they are changing it up this week with 2 of them up in the top 5, trying to make a different feel than it was last.
I thought that Logan Helton was the free pass car under the last caution. Apparently that was not the case. I don't know who the free pass machine was. So we have a total of 14 cars right now on the lead lap. Helton, Link, Sifford, Boyd, and York currently all at least 1 to 4 laps down to race leader Boyd Hogan.
It was looking like, looking at cars that had issues during that last caution. Tyler Sifford did come out, try to run some laps, felt like his car just wasn't good enough. He pulled it back in the pits, trying to get more repairs done before he pulls back out. Alex Link still racing out there, 1 lap down, but his car is extremely slow. He's probably going to get a lap down here in the next 5 to 10 laps.
Yeah, we saw on the restart there where he was pulled down almost to the apron, making sure he was out of everybody's way, realizing his car is not up to speed. And don't blink, we've got a battle for the lead starting to brew. Vincent Arthur has been able to close the gap between himself and Boyd Hogan down to about 2/10 coming off of turn 4.
And he ran about a 10th faster that last lap. We'll see what this lap shows for us as their side-by-side action for third. And yeah, no, this 24 machine, we were wondering if anyone was going to be able to touch the 2 car, and I think we got our answer as the 24 of Vincent Arthur really trying to get closer and closer, but he's got to be careful not to use up all his stuff running down the 2 car, but have something left to maybe pass him later on in the run.
You see right there as we looked off of turn 2, gap opened up just a little bit. Now it's about 4/10. Is that because the 24, the closer he got to the back of Boyd Hogan, he started feeling that arrow push?
The arrow push also could have been a lot more of him carrying speed into the corner where he just felt like, yeah, the arrow push. But he also just looked like he wasn't running as low as the 2 car was, and just running a slightly higher than the 2 car, which is making him lose a couple of seconds here and there. But we're starting to see the 14 car now making a push to the 24.
Oh, and now we're starting to see him almost lose it off of 2. Gracious. Carl Dodson down there way below the white line, as I thought that car was going to go around, but again, because of that huge runoff area in the back straightaway, he's able to straighten it back out, keep it going. But what was a brewing battle for second may now drop him back here in danger of dropping outside of the top 3.
Almost out of the top 3, and honestly, if he falls back to the clutches of the 42, he's got a lot more machines back there that are hungry to make a push forward. I mean, that's a lot of cars that have just been running in the middle of the pack that are making some pushes to the forward. I mean, we've got a Butcher Benjamin who's been running around 11th place or so. Now he's up in the top 10, as well as Justin Carey, who we saw spinning out a couple of times onto the apron. He's now up in the top 10.
And now Butcher Benjamin doing a great job in consistency to make sure he stays atop the overall point standings. He's still looking for his first trip to victory lane, however. With drivers that have gone to victory lane ahead of him, he right now would be in the 5th seed of the playoff standings behind Hogan, Caudle, Dodson, and Boyd. As far as the playoff standings are concerned, the battle going into tonight's race really was between Dylan Canova's number 4, which of course is being filled in by Logan Helton, and Aaron Lapham in the 8 out of Richard Childress Racing. Those 2 were separated by 5 points, one just above the cut line, one just below the cut line, but the 8 car is not in the field. Really, the only other battle that was going on were drivers maybe like Alex Link or Tyler Sifford that were 41 and 81 points out of the cut line, respectively. But with the incident they both had, bringing out our latest caution, we can kind of say for the moment, looks like that 4 machine will be staying up in the playoff standings heading into next week.
Yeah, looking good, but a car that drifted back, that's going to be the 24 machine, and I think he might have used up his stuff because he is running a lot slower than all the cars around him. Everyone else kind of running a little bit faster than our leader, as it looks like Boyd might have made a slip, as we've seen some lap machines coming back on the track after doing some repairs and getting pretty close to our leaders once getting back on the track, but they try to avoid the leader at all costs. But still, we're starting to see the challenge for second become a three-horse race.
Escada to the inside of Hendrick Motorsports teammate Vincent Arthur. You've also got Ty McWhirter here as well, as Arthur drops back to fourth, now back to fifth. Maybe going to lose out on that spot here as the 39 of Curtis Sawyer closes to the left rear quarter panel. The 95 of Tyler Sifford has come back out onto the racetrack, but as you mentioned, he came down pit road for a little bit more repairs before finally going out there, and he has dropped back to last car running in 19th, one lap behind Zach York, who of course was involved in the first caution of the day. York has been able to move his way up to 18th place. Let's give a shout out to a couple of other guys back here that, we haven't talked about them because they haven't been up at the front, but they've been able to stay at least on the lead lap. You've got there the Nationwide Children's Foundation number 88 of James Love, currently in the 13th position, and not too far behind him, Chris Hansen in that Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota Camry, the Irwin Industrial Tools Toyota, currently in 14th place. So, yeah, they've not been in the conversation for the win, but they've been able to stay on the lead lap. Looks like they're going to at least complete all the laps, and sometimes for drivers that don't exactly care for these type of tracks, that's just the goal. Just go out there, run all the laps, keep the car in one piece.
Yeah, I mean, a car that had issues on that first caution of the day, running in 10th right now. It's the 10 machine of Spencer Tart, and he was someone that was involved in the middle of that first caution, got his car repaired, slowly has been making his way forward, now in the top 10.
It's actually a battle for the 10th position going on between himself and another driver who struggled early on and has been able to battle back the 22 of Chad Gunisman. That's the lap machine of Logan Helton in between the two of them. Helton right now, should we get a caution, would be the recipient of the free pass and be back in the lead lap. Currently, he is running in the 15th position. Back up towards the front, though. Battle on for second. Curtis Sawyer, who was probably the one driver in the first 20 laps we saw out of shape the most off of turn two. All of a sudden, that car is flying as he's going to move up to the second position, getting around the Napa Chevrolet. Oh, and as soon as I say that, he nearly loses it there in the middle of 3 and 4.
Yeah, I mean, that's all on entry for him. He came in just a little bit too hard, turned his wheel just a little bit more than expected, and around that car went. You really got to take it easy here at Michigan. It's one of those tracks where, yes, you can carry a lot of speed, but if you turn your wheel just a little bit too much, you will easily just spin it out in the middle of the corner, as we saw there with Sawyer. Luckily, he kept it straight, but man, that could have been awful for that machine.
By the entrance of turn one, he was second. When they exited turn two, he was back to 8th, as the battle now for third place between Carl Dodson and Vincent Arthur, as well as Ty McWhirter back there and Taylor Butcher Benjamin. I mean, Butcher Benjamin's been able to finish consistently up there inside the top 5 pretty much all this season. He's not necessarily been in the conversation for the win, but the consistency is what has him at the top of the board as far as the standings. And right now, 6th place is where that Joe Gibbs Racing car is running. Actually, kind of
caution's out. And it looks like,
Rocky Boyd off turn 2 yet again.
Yeah. It was one of those things where just like you knew someone was going to spin out somewhere, and it was Rocky Boyd that got close to the wall, lost it around the corner, but spun it around.
Oh, I know the answer to this, but I'm contractually obligated to ask. Do you come to pit road for tires?
Of course you do. It's around that time of less than 35 laps to go. It's the perfect time to come in, get your tires done. But, this is the first time we've seen cars really caution a bit. That's been before 20 or so laps on these tires. So, but we've been seeing cars right when they pit and right before caution comes out getting extremely loose, and Rocky Boyd spins it around, giving us his second caution that he's given us today.
Maybe Rocky Boyd with the longest spin of the day here at Michigan. That car was already out of shape by the time he was entering into turn 1. You saw the rear end continue to kind of slide out from underneath him, and then finally off turn 2, it snapped around. He went to overcorrect it, and it spun down there on that little access runoff on the back straightaway. So here we go. Is this what we might consider the money stop, or do you see maybe another caution coming out here in these final 25 laps?
I'm expecting us to see another caution here before we get to the end of this thing. Yes, these guys have been doing well up front. It's been looking good, but we have seen even cars up front getting loose, almost spinning it completely around. We've been seeing amazing saves all over the place. But after around lap 23, we start to see cars get a lot more looser, and I can imagine us seeing another caution here very soon. Before we get to the end of this thing, we might be seeing the same situation we saw yesterday with like 6 or 5 laps to go. We might have a caution, but looks like Rocky Boyd deemed and hit with a disqualification due to him having those 2 accidents, causing wrecks by self spin. So Rocky Boyd out of the race. He's going to be losing 2 positions if we see, and it looks like Sifford and Link are both out. And Zach York, after that first caution, he finds himself up in 16th position.
And it is confirmed this caution puts Logan Helton in the 4 back on the lead lap now as well. So we'll see. He's had some great speed, been able to work his way up to around the 7th position, even though he was 1 lap down. So we'll see if he can work his way up to that vicinity here in these final 25 laps. Tough break there for Rocky Boyd. It's the 2nd straight race, including last week at Kansas, where he has been parked by admins. The good news for Rocky Boyd, though, is he does have that victory this season, so he's already locked into the playoffs. He's making the start requirements, but obviously when you head into the second half of the regular season, you want to have momentum on your side when you eventually get to the playoffs, and right now it's just not been the case for the driver at Chip Ganassi Racing.
No, it has not been a great last couple of weeks for Rocky Boyd, but we're expecting him to make a bounce back in the next couple of weeks. A car that had some pit issues, but mainly just car issues itself. Carl Dotson had a lot of damage he needed to repair. Luckily, he's still in the lead lap, but that man had to stay in the pits for over a minute to get some repairs done. As well for the 22 machine up in 11th, he had to stay in for quite a long time to get repairs done. So a lot of these cars up here trying to get as many repairs done before we go green here. That could possibly be our last restart.
Could. Keyword. Boyd Hogan going to be the race leader when we go back green with Joseph Piscata to his outside, Vincent Arthur and Ty McWhirter in row 2, Tom Drayling, Taylor Butcher Benjamin row 3. Then it's Justin Carey, Curtis Sawyer, Spencer Tart, and Ty Cole completing the top 10. Here in these final 25 or so laps, we'll give you the rest of the rundown as Chad Gunisman's 11th, Carl Dodson 12th, Chris Hansen 13th, James Love 14th, Logan Helton now back in the lead lap with the free pass in 15th. Those are the cars currently on the lead lap. Zach York 3 laps down in 16th, Alex Link and Tyler Sifford 5 laps down apiece in 17th and 18th. 2 drivers out of the race since we started. Rocky Boyd just parked moments ago in 19th, and Caden Rush will finish the day out in 20th. So here we go. Looks like officially it's going to be 27 laps to go when we go back green. Boyd Hogan's been good on these restarts, and looks like yet again he's going to be able to open up some distance and leave them battling side by side for second.
I said this at the start of the race, and it seems like Sifford, the only one that's really able to stay side by side with Boyd at these restarts. But Boyd Hogan up front, but this action is all for second and third. As you see, I believe that's the 9 machine of Piscata up on the high side, finally getting down low.
And you saw his hands in there working as that car got really loose on him in the center of 1 and 2 on the top side. That drifts him back to 4th. Oh, Curtis Sawyer on the apron, and he saves it. We're still green, but he went for a long slide through turns 3 and 4.
You know, I'm going to say this, though. Where did he come from? Ty Cole up in the top 5. He's been running back down around 14th and 15th most of this race after being up front, battling around 3rd place earlier on in the stint. Used up a lot of his stuff, got into the wall on back, but with all the time that he's had, able to get back up into the top 5, and is going to be putting his car down low for making a
for 4th on Piscota, as just up ahead of him, Ty McWhirter trying to make the pass on Vincent Arthur for 2nd. Give it to the Coca-Cola Chevy, or make that Coca-Cola Toyota Camry, rather. Now Ty Cole looking to the inside for 3rd. Crossover. Here comes Arthur back for the 2nd spot.
And all these guys are trying to run down Boyd Hogan, who's enjoying staying side by side. He wants to see them doing crossovers, making these abrasive moves, use up their stuff, and try to make this gap back to where it was before. It was almost 2-3 seconds, a gap between Boyd Hogan. We've talked about almost every single car out here having issues getting loose off the corner, except for that two machine who's just been looking consistent and strong, almost like a car that won yesterday.
Yeah, exactly the same kind of a scenario. And maybe some of that could be contributed to clean air, but I think the main thing is the tire management, making sure you've got those rear end tires for the entirety of the run.
Is the one consistent thing that we saw yesterday and we're seeing today. Keep those tires under you, manage them the best you can, and you should be up front, and everyone else getting loose or just battling so hard as now the 22 machine back in the
Businessman there going to the inside of Justin Carey. That would be for sixth. And you got a group of the Stewart Haas Racing guys back here, 9th, 10th, and 11th. Spencer Tart there in the 10th position, and there is Logan Helton and Carl Dodson. Dodson had that extended stay on pit road, as you mentioned, to get some damage repaired under the last yellow. Logan Helton getting the free pass. They're now up in the 10th and 11th spots, trying to charge their way back to the front, because before he ended up having to have that extended stay, Carl Dodson was running up there in the top 5, as high up as 3rd place.
Yeah, I'm actually quite surprised with the damage that he had with all that optional time that he was able to stay out there and battling up front in the top 5 as well as he was. Now you got to think, with him getting that repairs done, how quick will he be as he's trying to make a harsh charge up front? It's looking like our leader pulling away as we're seeing the battle for second be a 3-car horse.
Boyd Hogan has 5 wins this season in 9 starts. He's got more starts by himself than 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place combined. And right now, we're definitely seeing the experience coming into play as he's continuing to try to hold them off. I've been noticing last couple of laps, Boyd Hogan kind of IndyCarring it, pulling down there to the white line, the back straightaway, trying to break up the draft. But I'm not really certain Vincent Arthur, Piscata, and Ty McWhorter are even close enough to get a sniff of his draft.
Yeah, they're kind of just out of the range for the draft to become useful. And with them being a 3-car train already, it's hard for them really to make any big moves. Some of them might be just having that arrow push of coming in a little bit too quick, having to let off, and losing time that way.
Justin Carey is continuing to drop back as he just lost a couple more positions to Benjamin, Tart, and Helton, so he drops to the 10th position and now under fire from Carl Dodson. You see the run there out of turn 2. Here comes Piscata for the 2nd position on teammate Vincent Arthur.
Yeah, these guys are battling it up for second, and then also you've got quite a large pack of cars back around 5th on back with side-by-side action between Butcher Benjamin as well as Cole.
Logan Helton starting to close in on this as well. You saw him back behind Chad Gunisman. There's the 21 of Carey, who looks like he may have almost gone up and brushed the wall there off of turn 2. As Benjamin now cracks the top 5, but as he looks in his rearview mirror, he's got a hornet's nest there. And every single one of them are Fords, so it's 4 Fords trying to run down a Toyota here for the 5th position.
They're trying their best, but man, it's kind of difficult with the way that these guys are racing side by side, using a lot of their stuff as we're now 19 laps as caution is out.
And it's Tyler Sifford. It was up in the air, barrel rolling in the infield grass.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my gracious.
I think that was some payback.
Possibly the 43 of Alex Link may be involved in all of this as well.
Oh, yeah. No, that was a complete payback move by Alex Link onto Sifford. It was kind of unwarranted. Oh, man, that's a bad
yeah, you
wreck.
can see he waited for him. Here it is going into turn 3, and oh, man.
I mean, Alex Link, we saw him having so many issues, and you hate to see these guys battling it back and forth, but you know, Alex Link, I don't think that payback was warranted. we saw the 95 give the payback with the caution that was brought out previously in the middle of the race, and now you got this incident, and you got to wonder, is Alex Link gonna be getting some payback later on in the season by the 95?
Quite possibly. I mean, I thought, based on what we saw on that run just before the two of them got together the second time, I thought the score was 1-1 because you had Link who pushed up into Sifford. The two of them lost momentum and positions, and then later on you had Sifford push up into Link. So I thought that was basically score 1-1. Apparently, that's not the way the 43 saw it.
No, I think the 43 did not see it that same way that we did. Yeah, honestly, both of us think the same thing. I thought it was 1-1 too. Is Siffer going to make the payback move? We got to wait and see. Admins will probably have to make a decision here on either parking these guys or just letting them. But that was not a good move by the 43, as we're starting to see everyone down pit getting their services done, and where we're at right now, we should be good to the green. Hypothetically, if we're good, just based off what we've been seeing. But who knows? We might see a late because later in the race, a lot of people aren't going to be as patient as they once were early.
Absolutely. Push is going to come to shove at this point as there was a little bit closer of a battle off pit road there. Piscata almost was able to at least get alongside of the two, but it will be Hogan, Piscata, Arthur, Benjamin, and McWhirter coming off pit road, the top five. You mentioned about, letting the drivers get back out there. It was hard to tell really just how much damage that Alex Link got when he went up into the wall after hooking the 95 around, but I don't think there's any possible way after the wild ride in the infield grass that 95 is going to be getting back out on track. But I also kind of question the payback there by Alex Link because, yes, I understand he's frustrated, but you don't want to get yourself a suspension, especially with the fact that he came into this race only 41 points behind the cut line. We still got half the season to go. I mean, you got to think about further on down the road. If you get a whole bunch of top 10 finishes, you're going to find yourself up in a playoff spot. If you get yourself suspended for who knows how many number of weeks, those are points you're losing out on.
Yeah, it doesn't help that you're taking out one of the cars that's been having a good run all for the past couple of weeks, and it is a very weird situation to see yourself in. Alex Link has been disqualified from the rest of the race, so he has been parked. That is the third car we will see during this race, and Sifford in the pits trying to get that car fixed up. Possibly will get more position. Not looking good for him. Cars that are still in the lead, still 2 laps down. It's gonna be Zach York back in 16th. He's slowly been chipping away at him being 4. I think at one point he was 5 laps down.
He was, I believe, the recipient of the free pass here under this caution. So if he can get 2 more quick yellows here in the final 15 laps of this race, we could see him back on the lead lap. But right now, he is currently -2. And I want to just quickly go back and touch again there on Alex Link as well. We're up here talking about, the big picture and the playoffs and everything, but Sam and I know that when you've got the helmet on, a lot of times you don't think about that. You think about what just happened and you kind of let that simmer in your mind. So I think that's probably what was going on there with Alex Link. He wasn't thinking about playoff points. He wasn't thinking about later on down in the season. He was thinking about what had happened about 25 laps ago when he was going to be the last one to get the final punch in.
Yeah, I mean he was having he was doing well for the first quarter of this race, then was starting to have tire issues, and then him having some contact. It just didn't go so well, and we're gonna be ourselves restarting here with just about 15 laps to go as pace car pulls off. Will Boyd Hogan be able to get this thing done as he gets another great start, almost another 2 to 3 car lengths restart?
Hey, the thing that really shocks me, I don't really expect the driver on the outside of the front row to get as good a jump, but I've been really surprised that nobody there on the inside of row 2 has been able to accelerate the same time as the 2 and clear for second place, keeping on his back bumper going into turn 1.
Whoa, someone got loose all the way at the bottom, and it looks like that was Ty Cole, who got loose off of 2 and was able to save it, but he's going to be losing a lot of time as now they're 3, almost 4 wide back here around 7.
Marisha Spencer, Tart, Logan Helton in that mix, as well as Curtis Sawyer up on the top side. Carl Dodson there as well in the 14 as they remain 3 wide, almost 2 rows deep down the front straightaway.
But up front for the lead, you got Arthur making a move for the leader. Boyd not going to be able to hold off so far, and he'll be losing first place at 24 to the point.
Now what Boyd Hogan? Oh, caution!
Caution!
Carl Dodson, as well as Chris Hansen, down out of turn 2 on the back straightaway. Dodson facing the wrong way up in the high groove.
Oh, I think he got a little bit of help with the car that was below him.
He was in the middle of that 3 wide situation. It may have been either Logan Helton or maybe Ty Cole.
That was Ty Cole. It looks like Ty Cole drifted up just a little bit. Also, the 14 came down just a tad. And the 14 was the one that went around. Ty Cole did get some front or right damage on that.
Right there, the 14 kind of held up behind the 39 of Sawyer, and to your point, 34 just kind of pushes up there, off corner exit, gets into Dodson. Didn't look like Dodson took that hard of a hit into the outside wall. And then I don't think Chris Hansen spun, but he obviously used all of that lower area there to be able to get to the inside and avoid the spinning 14.
Well, work.
And guess what, Sam? Zach York. He's now only -1. He's got a shot to be back in the lead lap before this thing's over.
And it's not like his car was too damaged. I mean, he's been working on this car all race long. And it's got to a point where he's able to still run with these guys up front. So if he can get himself on a lead lap, he might find himself getting up into a top 15 position. But he's still running out there trying to get those laps back.
Really the only Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota driver that's really been competitive here today has been Butcher Benjamin in the 11. Hansen has spent most of the race running back toward the tail end of the lead lap as he is actually on pit road. A couple of others actually on pit road as well. I think our top 6 stayed out.
Yeah, 7th on back, all came to the pits, and this is the first time we're going to be seeing some strategy thrown in. And I like the call for the cars that came. I think that is the better move. Tire wear is so important here. By the time we go green, it's probably going to be about 10 laps to go. So it's going to be an interesting call here. Will there be enough cars between themselves and the cars that have fresher tires for them to get a good run at the end of this thing?
The only other time that we were really able to make any kind of a comparison between tires a little bit fresher than the others was back when we had that caution. I think it was our second caution. It came out not too long after the first one. And I think there was a difference of about 8 laps on the tires between those that pitted and those that decided to stay out. This time it's going to be 5 laps. Do you think that's going to make really a whole lot of difference in terms of the grip for these drivers? Or do you think there's not really enough laps for it to make much of a difference?
No, I expect this to be a difference for sure for these drivers. Just even 1 lap makes a major difference for these cars. And imagine just having 3 laps ran on these tires. That is wear and tear, and we've seen some of these guys up in the top be spinning, getting a little loose here and there. So I'm expecting these guys to get, everyone that's pitted already, we've seen them get loose throughout this race, but I think this is going to help a lot of them out, having the fresher rubber, having them a better chance to keep their car straight.
We go back to the notes from last night. 1 lap fresher tires gains you a 10th per lap. So if the calculations are correct, right now guys like Curtis Sawyer, Chad Gunisman, Logan Helton, Tom Drayling, they could have about half a second of speed in their tires as opposed to the 6 drivers that decided to stay out. We will be going back green with 9 laps to go in this one. 10 laps to go in this one. Vincent Arthur had just made the pass for the lead on Boyd Hogan just before that caution came out, so he'll be the control car now with Boyd Hogan second, Joseph Piscata in third, Ty McWhorter fourth, Taylor Butcher Benjamin in fifth, Spencer Tartan sixth. Those are the drivers that did not pit. First that did was Curtis Sawyer. He's seventh, Chad Gunisman in eighth, Logan Helton in ninth, Tom Drayling in 10th. And right now, the rest of the drivers in the conversation possibly for this win would be 11th place James Love, 12th place Justin Carey, 13th Carl Dodson, 14th Chris Hansen, and 15th Ty Cole. Zach York did get the free pass. He is 1 lap down now in 16th place. The the only other driver that's still in this event, but he still sits on pit road getting repairs done. 17th place, Tyler Sifford. So here we go, 10 laps, Sam. Do we make it back to the white flag?
I mean, if we see Curtis Sawyer have another kind of saving move, who knows? To wait and see. His pace car starts to roll off. Ty Cole got hit with EOL, so he'll be starting all the way in the back. But up front, it's going to be Vincent Arthur, going to be our control car. It's a different spot than what we've seen. And Arthur able to get a pretty decent jump up to about 2. But here comes the 2 machine.
And I think one thing that might have been an advantage here for Vincent Arthur, he's a teammate to the 9 of Piscata, so if he maybe gave him a little bit of an idea of when he was going to go, then Piscata is able to get around Boyd Hogan for second and take the pressure off the 24, and I think that's exactly what the two of them did.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are trying their best to really push their cars to the limit. Being kind of difficult, but they're still side by side, and you're seeing the side.
Right now, Boyd Hogan's kind of boxed in because he's got McWhirter to his inside. He's got Piscata just ahead of him. And oh, look now, but here comes the points leader, Taylor Butcher Benjamin, bringing a whole bunch of friends with him. We're going to have about 10 to 12 cars up here in this lead pack before all is said and done.
Car to watch out for is going to be Curtis Sawyer, but he's going to drop back to 7th. He's the one with the freshest tires so far.
Oh, car in the wall.
Good sounds like
the 22. Tom Drayling is sideways as well, sitting in the middle of the track. I believe he's who the caution came out for. I don't know if the 22 hit the wall after contact with that wreck or if it was in a reaction.
Looked like he got loose on car. Drayling got loose by himself and then got a little bit of help to finish him going around. Was going to be Curtis. Just that spun him around there at the end.
Obviously, we didn't get that many laps there, but I'm looking in terms of the drivers that stayed out and the drivers that came to pit road. 5 of the 6 that stayed out, actually no, all 6 are up 1st through 6th still. So those fresh tires, at least for Curtis Sawyer right now, didn't exactly work. But of course, he didn't have a whole lot of laps to be able to try and have that fresh rubber kick in, as we'll go back and see what happened. Again, another incident off of turn 2.
Yeah, he only had, these guys with fresher tires only had a lap and a corner to make some moves, and it takes time for these cars to get their momentum up to finally utilize those fresher tires. And that spin out in caution did not help those guys. Everyone that has stayed already will probably have to still continue to stay out. They have put their chips down, but everyone else, they pitted already. They can come in again and get even fresher tires if they were thinking about making a bigger move.
It's hard to tell there as Tom Drayling, who finished 4th last night in the Rapid Fire Pizza Grand National Series. It'd be interesting to see. I don't know if you saw from your standpoint if there was contact between the 42 and the 21 or if Drayling was already losing it.
The 22 lost it on his own in front of Drayling. Drayling lost it. They both lost it on their own. It was just the fact that Drayling got it from Justin Carey. But pit road, there was some cars that came into the pits. The car that led it all was going to be Boyd Hogan, but he was the only one in our top 8 that came in.
Wow. I mean, he's already got 5 wins. He's already locked into the playoffs. If I remember correctly, didn't he pull this same kind of strategy back at, was it Charlotte? His way up there to the front of the field and eventually take that win?
Was it Charlotte? I know we've seen it in other leagues where cars have tried that out.
Was it Charlotte or was it last week? I think actually it might have been last week at Kansas. Where he was able to swing around using the outside line on fresh tires. After a late pit stop, he worked his way up from, I think it was 6th to the eventual race win. So this is almost a little bit of deja vu from a week ago.
We'll have to wait and see if this works out. It's going to be a lot fresher tires, 10-lap fresher tires than what he's going to have against the cars that are in our top 5 at the moment, but only 5-lap newer tires than the cars that are in front of him, which are 3 cars. That's going to be Curtis Sawyer, Logan Helton, and James Love, who we have been seeing in the back of the pack all race long, making his move here at the end at 8th.
So it's going to be a front row comprised of Hendrick Motorsports. We already have documented the struggles they have had. And right now, they are first and second with Arthur and Piscata. Ty McWhirter, Taylor Butcher Benjamin, a couple of Toyotas in row two. Spencer Tart, who brought out the first caution of the day, up there in the fifth position with Curtis Sawyer. And perseverance pays off. Zach York back on the lead lap. He's in the 13th position right now, in line for maybe a top 10 finish after spending this race off the lead lap as many as 4 laps down.
I mean, some of these guys are going to have to make a huge push as they're trying to catch up to the pace cars. These cars are about to enter turn number 3 as they're exiting off of pit road. So you got a lot of cars trying to run and get up to the pack that is already racked up and ready to go.
It's going to be 5 laps to go when we get the green flag. Vincent Arthur in only his 3rd start of the season, trying to find victory lane. His best finish so far was a 3rd. That was 2 weeks ago at Charlotte. Piscata's best finish was in the top 10. I'd have to look back and see exactly where that was. I believe it might have been last week at Kansas, but I'll double check that. As green flags in the air, Vincent Arthur going to open up about a car length between himself and his teammate. 5 laps to go at Michigan.
Able to make that move there. But the car I'm watching now forces the 2 car that makes it 4 wide. Back here, moving himself up to 7th place is Boyd Hogan, who's ready to move back up. He's got much fresher tires than everyone else in front of him.
If he can get himself up to 2nd, there's no question Vincent Arthur's going to be a sitting duck. The question is, though, how can Boyd Hogan make his way through the traffic here? He's got to make sure he doesn't get boxed in as, whoa, Ty Cole up the track. Little contact there between himself and Logan Helton. Comes down in front of the 14. And we are still green as the 34 is on pit road. The 14 has spun into the infield grass. Still keeping it straight. Still green.
Still green, and it's still hard shark cars. Had some issues as another caution.
Caution is thrown as I believe.
Oh, that was an admin.
Back up onto the track may have brought this yellow out.
And that was a admin thrown caution, it looks like.
And it looked like Ty Cole was in the middle of a 3-wide situation, and his car got loose, darted down, and got into Carl Dodson. Cole's car went down pit road, went flying down pit road. Dodson spinning through the infield grass, and you know who's loving this right now, and that's Boyd Hogan, because guess what? He'd be lined up 2nd on that outside line for what's looking like it's going to be an overtime green-white checkered.
I think the only way to stop this 2 car right now is if everyone else comes into the pits except for the 2. That's the only way I can possibly see these cars having a chance against Boyd Hogan. Right where he is sitting, no one around him has the tires to make a push. Everyone else that pitted and was on the same tires as this 2 machine, they're all at around 10th place. So they're nowhere close to challenging with him.
We're going to wait and see if anyone ducks onto pit road before we go back and take a look at the incident there between Dodson and Cole off of turn 4. Vincent Arthur, as you said, he's made his bed. He's basically going to have to stay out here for the conclusion of this race. But I'm looking maybe at the 9 of Piscata, maybe thinking about coming to pit road. He's been out there for 14 laps. Nope, but here comes Logan Helton in the 4. A little cat and mouse between himself and James Love.
Elton had to come in at some point, and that's what he's going to do right here. And everyone else that's kind of, in my opinion, giving it to the 2 car as we're going to be starting our first green-white checkered out of 3 attempts.
And if you remember the situation Logan Helton is in, I mean, he's just out there trying to pull off a move that's going to get him the race win. He's not battling for the championship here in this series. He's filling in at Stewart-Haas Racing. Right now, his goal is to either find victory lane or accumulate the most points he can as a sub driver. So why not come to pit road, get those 4 fresh tires, and pick up as many spots as you can here in what could maybe be 1, but possibly 3 overtime green-white checkers.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to wait and see what type of moves work out here as Helen back in. He's got 4 cars in front of him that have pretty decent tire, and it's not until you get up to 8th place where you see cars with double-digit tire wear until you get to 4th place. Boyd Hogan with only 5 laps on those tires, and you saw the aggressive moves that he was making, and they worked out great for the 2 machine. What other aggressive moves will we be seeing him?
Close call there for Justin Carey. You saw that Ty Cole was stuck in the middle. That was, I think it was Logan Helton to his outside, James Love to his inside, and then the 14 got a huge run on him coming out of turn 4, and that's how the two of them made contact. And great job there by Carl Dodson. I mean, we talked about the runoff area on the back straightaway, allowing these drivers to be able to save it. It's not as easy when you're doing it through the infield grass, but a good job for Dodson not spinning out.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like right now Carl Dodson hit with the EOL, so he'll be starting the back of the pack. We'll see where he lines up.
Wild ride that Ty Cole took down pit road. Fortunately for him, it ended up heading for pit road entrance. Could have very well hit those yellow water barrels just at the start of the pit road wall. The rear bumper tether hanging on as he pulled it into his pit stall and got service done on his machine. He is now 1 lap down, is Ty Cole in that 34 car back out on the track. So he wouldn't mind seeing this be 2 green-white checkers. It would get him back onto the lead lap. But Vincent Arthur, Ty McWhitter are the only 2 that have stayed out here on... I'm sorry, they're the 2 that are up front here that have stayed out on the last 2 cautions. Curtis Sawyer pitted back on the first caution since we ended up having these late yellows. He has 11 laps on his tires in third. Boyd Hogan, only 6 laps on his tires. He pitted under the last caution, not this one, but the one before. He's 4th. Then Joseph Piscata, Spencer Tart, Taylor Butcher, Benjamin. They've all been out on the same lap number of tires as Arthur and McWhirter. And you got James Love, Chad Gunisman, and Zach York back up in the top 10 now after being 4 laps down. First attempt at a green-white checkered at Michigan.
And we're going to be seeing the 24 car making a good run here and able to get himself at least in front of the 96. We'll see if he's able to hold off as we're entering turn number 1.
Keep an eye right side of your screen for that black number 2 of Boyd Hogan. See what kind of a run he gets there as, pushing up the track with Curtis Sawyer into his door.
Sawyer's not looking clean. I mean, that's what he's been looking like most of the race. He's able to save that car, but Boyd Hogan now moving up to 4th, making it dive down low.
He's going to go 3 wide for the lead as McWhirter tried to block him, couldn't do it. Now McWhirter moves up to the top side in front of Arthur. We're still going to be 3 wide for the lead, almost 4 wide as they cross the line.
And it's the white flag. Here we go.
Going to the checkered flag. Who's going to make it back first? As Arthur, back through the throttle, through the center, holds on to the lead. Boyd Hogan got a little loose there on the bottom. Now he's going to lose second. Now it's the 24 and the 96 as the 9 getting blocked down to the apron. Here comes the 96 way down to the bottom.
Somehow the 96 was able to make it stick, and he's still running it hard. Boyd Hogan stuck in 3rd, but he's going to be charging for 2nd at the moment.
He maybe make a charge here for the win as we got a spin in the back. No, he saved it. And at the line, it's going to be...
Oh!
Wow, McWhirter by about half a car length, pulling off an unbelievable move on the back straightaway. And I just want to clarify, folks, that white line only indicates the apron to the racetrack. It is not out of bounds. The move that was made by McWhirter is legal, and therefore this win should stand for the driver out of Gaunt Brothers Racing.
That was one of the more intense finishes. You didn't know who was going to be able to get there. Boyd Hogan tried to make a last push there off of 4, just was not able to get it finished. But man, that 96 car, what a great run on that green-white checker.
Unbelievable job there for McWhirter. He not only was able to hold off Boyd Hogan, but then up around the outside line was able to take away the position with the crossover on Vincent Arthur. And that is only his 2nd start of the season. and it's his first trip to victory lane. What a drive there for Ty McWhirter, having to hold off some of the best here that we've had the last couple of weeks in Hogan and Vincent Arthur. The top three crossing the line, 8/100ths of a second.
Yeah, I mean, you thought that Hogan was going to get it done due to him having 10 lap newer tires than our top four, but he tried his best, just wasn't able to get it done. And man, that was one of the closer runs at the end there. You thought maybe the 96 had it coming off of 4, but then they just kept on getting closer and closer until they got to the line. 3 wide action, and that 96 got it done there at the end.
Boyd Hogan, so close. I thought maybe the fresh rubber would help him on corner exit to maybe get it at the line. Came up just short, and here it is, folks. Freeze frame it. That's what it looked like at the line there for your top three finishers. With McWhirter winning, Hogan second, Arthur in third. The closest finish we've had so far here since we started broadcasting the Soda Guys Cup Series. And obviously, he's going to have to meet a starts requirement. But question is, does this put Ty McWhirter now as a driver locked up into the playoffs this season? It's only his second start, but I think we got to look at this guy as maybe someone to watch when those playoff grids are put together. As we look here at the rest of the finishing results, and one driver that lost a ton of positions there, and it's an incumbent off of turn 4, was Curtis Sawyer. I don't know if that car did go around, but he certainly was sideways and had to save it. He dropped out of the top 10 to finish in 13th. So as a result, you got Piscata in 4th, Spencer Tart there in 5th, Taylor Butcher Benjamin. Consistency continues for that 11 team in 6th. James Love, how about a guy that ran maybe 13th through 15th all day long? He'll finish in 7th. Great fill-in for Logan Helton, bringing it home in 8th. Zach York, 4 laps down in the early portions of this race, gets those late yellows back in the lead lap, finishes in 9th, and Justin Carey completing the top 10. And you had Chad Gunnisman 11th, Carl Dodson in 12th, Sawyer crossed the line in 13th, Chris Hansen 14th, and the last car to finish on the lead lap was Tom Drayling. Ty Cole finished 1 lap down, and then drivers out of the race were Tyler Sifford, Alex Link, Rocky Boyd, and Caden Rush. But we're going to now get words with our podium finishers that you saw right there in that screenshot. We're going to kick things off with our third place finisher out of Hendrick Motorsports. That, of course, is Vincent Arthur, who now has 2 third place finishes in his last 3 starts. And Vincent, I mean, obviously, we were talking about the fact that kind of your bed was made. You had to lie in it with being the race leader and staying out. But man, you did a heck of a job holding off that 2 car there, but were you prepared for the move of the 96 on the back straightaway?
Going back over it, I really should have just given him the top lane because I know, I knew the move he was going to pull. He was going to suck up to me and then dive it all the way down to the bottom of the track. I should have just stayed down on the bottom and given him the top. But hats off to those guys. They did a great job. They had a fast car all day, and if anybody was going to win it, it's deserving they won it.
Obviously, last week at Kansas, a lot of the Hendrick cars got involved in some early incidents, and 3 of you finish up inside of the top 10 here tonight. Is this a huge momentum change for the Hendrick Motorsports team?
Oh, it's got to be. Last week was such a hit to the entire team because we spent so much time during the week, working on that setup, and we were fast. We had a really fast car. We just didn't, have the time to show it because of the early wrecks. Lap time wise, we were up there with Boyd last week, and I think we really could have had something for him. So, coming back and having us run good again this week, I think it's just hopefully it's the boost of momentum where we can capture a checkered flag here soon.
Yeah, Vincent, I mean, we were seeing these guys throughout the race being extremely loose. How was the car under you today?
Fired off really tight to start the race. It was a completely new setup. The setup we had coming in, once we got into the server, it was no good. But I got to thank Taylor Butcher Benjamin for helping us out there and giving us a setup that we could compete with and work off of. But it fired off tight the first run. I made a slight air pressure adjustment for that second one, and it helped. And then that third pit stop we had, I made some spring adjustments and everything, and then the car just came to life. And I think I went a little too far for the short run because I was expecting a 15 lap green run, and about 7 laps into the run it would get really tight. So I think I over adjusted a little bit, but to still be able to be up there and run, I'm just thankful to be up there.
No, absolutely. Unbelievable drive by you. You almost pulled it off there on that final green-white checkered, but you bring it home with a solid third place outing. It's your second top 5 in 3 starts, and we're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
All right, thank you. Well, got to thank iRacing iFlag, Shoba Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, and Abiding Love Memorial Urns. And then finally, I got to thank Full Tilt Brewing Company. They were the sponsor for the car last week. Didn't get the result that I wanted for them, especially having them, the first race on the car. But, give it 2 more weekends. They'll be back on the car, and then hopefully we can bring it home in victory lane for them.
That's Vincent Arthur, brings home third place here today at Michigan. Great run for you here today, and a lot of momentum now starting on your side as we're going to be heading next week to the road course of Sonoma.
Thank you, guys.
And let's bring in our second place finisher, Boyd Hogan. Streak comes to an end of 4 wins in a row. He finishes second place here today. But Boyd, I want to go back. I mean, you came to pit road there, the caution just before the green, white, checkered yellow. You had those fresh tires. What little bit more did you need to be able to get that 96 at the line?
A green flag run on more than 2 laps. It's about all we needed at all. But it is what it is. Go win.
Obviously, we saw that you were dominant there in the early portions of this race. Did you get a little bit surprised there that after the 95 had his issues that there were some drivers able to get up there to your back bumper to challenge you?
No, there's a lot of good dudes in this league with a lot of fast cars. Obviously, earlier on, and even I think at the end of the race, it was definitely still the best car by quite a bit. It's one of the best cars I've ever had, to be honest. And it's just that's kind of what happens when you get these late race yellows. It goes from being a race to a wild card, and that's why we brought it down pit road in the first place. If you're not starting in the lead, then you might as well at least have some kind of an advantage. And even starting in the lead really isn't much of an advantage here with this package and the car. So I don't know. You're kind of it's all luck after that.
Yeah, Boyd, it seemed like you had the most stable car out there. We didn't really see you slip up that much, but did you feel like your car was loose at all with the hot temperatures on this track?
Oh yeah. It was loose all day. I know Sifford was, because there were a few guys on something real similar to what I had, and Sifford and Curtis were pretty loose, and I was sideways most of the first 30 laps of a run, and it went through some pretty bad phases. But throughout the race, I just kept moving up closer and closer to the wall, just to try to stay wide open all the way through and just kind of wheel it that way rather than slowing the car down any more than what I had to, and just trying to keep every bit of momentum up here that you can.
I want to ask you real quickly too, Boyd, with you coming to pit road there in the closing stages of this race, it was the first time all day that you had somebody in front of you. Did you in any way, after experiencing the clean air for a majority of this race, feel that aero push or that aero tightness, or was your car on those fresh tires just so fast it was a non-factor?
No, you don't really feel much of aero push with these cars until about 5 to 10 laps into a run, depending on how good your car is. There was no aero push. It's basically just like a mini Daytona if it comes down to late race restarts. Anything less than about 5 laps is gonna be just draft, and whoever gets the run can seal the deal.
Well, Boyd, obviously, I know you would have loved to have advanced your winning streak to 5 in a row, but still, second place finish. You continue the podium runs here, and so the momentum continues there for your Black Deuce. And we're going to let you do some shout-outs.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody at Bobby Earnhardt's Legacy Esports, Abruzzi, Rogue Energy, Butt Kicker, Dustin Hall, everybody at Slip Angle Motorsports. There's a lot of people who put a lot of time into these cars with me, and I really appreciate everything they do, everything our sponsors do for us. For Rogue Energy, if you go use the code Reaper96, it'll get you about 20% off of everything in store there. And yeah, wish we could have brought it home. Wish we could have got the car the finish it deserved, but unfortunately, package sucks, car sucks, track sucks. We're on to Sonoma.
That's Boyd Hogan, brings it home in the second position here tonight. And as you mentioned, we're going to Sonoma. Wish you luck there.
Thanks, sir. Have a good night, boys.
And let's bring in our race winner, Ty McWhirter. Single car race team out of Gaunt Brothers Racing. And an unbelievable move on the back straightaway. We've got him down there in victory lane. And Ty, I want to go back there to that move on the final lap coming down into turn 3. We already documented that white line is not out of bounds. You can go down there and use it if you wanted to, and you definitely did. 17 lap older tires as well, as opposed to the 2-car coming off turn 4 and you're able to hold them off. Were you just in the moment there, just kind of whatever happened, or did you have a strategy in your head there coming out of turn 2 on the final lap?
Oh, absolutely. No, I was just going for it. I just had the car was pretty terrible all night, and then there at the end, I don't know, it was great. And I saw Vincent. I was able to get the run on him coming out too, and I knew he was gonna throw the block. I knew I just had to keep my foot in it, and it was checkers or records at that point. So I'm just really happy with how it all ended out.
We obviously mentioned that this is your second start of the season. How difficult is it when you enter into a new league to try and get used to the racing styles of everybody that's around you?
It's tough. You kind of gotta evaluate, everybody, and I was able to do that at Charlotte. I was watching Joseph Piscocia there. I was kind of spotting for him. It gave me a good evaluation period there. And then last week, it's kind of a rougher race, but a lot of great guys in this league, a lot of fun to race around them. So it's just a great environment all around.
Yeah, Ty, was your mentality just a checkered a record at that point on those final laps, or was there anything else you were thinking I needed to do to get by that 24?
Really, I just wanted to finish well. I was gonna be really happy for the top 5 with the car I had, but God, when the lane opened up there, I knew I just had to go for it and take it. It just, you can't back out at that point.
Well, you definitely didn't. It was the move that gets you the win here tonight. And, obviously, with only 2 starts, you're going to have to probably make some more starts to be playoff eligible. But this is definitely a step in the right direction. We're going to do some shout outs now.
Yeah, I'd like to thank iRacing iFlag, Shorbers Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, and Abiding Love Memorial Urns for coming on and sponsoring this great league.
Ty McWhirter takes the checkered flag as first of the season here tonight at Michigan International. Congrats. Go enjoy your win.
All right, thank you.
And so that concludes our coverage here tonight from Michigan. Sam, last night, if we make a comparison, last night we ran 94 laps. We had that late caution and we had some late race dramatics. Here tonight we had a few more cautions peppered in, but certainly the finish did not disappoint again.
No, seeing 3 wide finish is always something fun to watch, and having Ty out there putting on a good finish for us. I know Boyd wanted to get the win, but just wasn't able to get it done there at the end. Those green-white checkers, you never know what's going to happen with them.
Well, from the Irish Hills of Michigan to next week, the winding hills of Napa Valley, as we're going to be in wine country at the Sonoma Raceway. It's these drivers' first road course stop of the season. Obviously, when we have that point of a season, we say usually we see those road course aces rise up to the top, but certainly you'd have to think that that's going to be where we may see some drivers that we don't necessarily see up at the front at these 1.5 mile and 2 mile tracks. They may be up in the forefront when we get there.
Yeah, we'll always love to see those road course ringers come out. Some of these guys that are also very good at ovals will show up and show that they're good at all the different tracks. Can't wait to see who shows up next week at Sonoma.
Yeah, this is going to be a difficult one for us to know who those road course drivers are because, as mentioned, this is the first road course of the season. We have no previous numbers at any of the road courses to go off of. So we'll be learning as we go along there as well and hope that you guys will join us for that. That, of course, will be next Saturday. Green flag will fly at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But thank you to everybody that joined us here tonight for this race at Michigan. Hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. And Sam, as always, appreciate you joining me in the booth.
Always a pleasure.
So again, thanks to everybody that tuned in this evening. We do have some more broadcasts that are going to be coming up at the beginning of the week. IMRC Cup Series, they're going to be deciding their Final Four. They're going to be at Michigan International to find out who will be battling for the championship at Homestead, Miami. And then, of course, also, Sam's going to be probably going through about 3 or 4 calculators. We're going to be finding out who makes it into the playoffs for the Elite Home Place Beer Company Series, the Xfinity Series. That'll be taking place as well on Monday over on speed51.com. IMRC Cup Series goes green at 8:20, and the Elite Home Place Beer Company Series goes green at 8 o'clock. So be sure to tune in for those, as those are going to be wild, and we got a lot of other stuff going to be coming up next week as well. But for Sam Dyer, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for tuning in here tonight to Michigan, as Ty McWhirter is your winner here at the Michigan International Speedway in the Soda Guys Cup Series. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.